Hello and very warm welcome to Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. Following are the news headlines which have been reported by American, European, Asian, Canadian, African, and Australian news channels and AFP, AP, Reuters, news agencies. So now please let's watch the news headlines.
Tonight, breaking news, authorities say a sniper on a roof opening fire at an ICE facility. The deadly shooting in Dallas, 3 ICE detainees shot. At least one victim killed, the suspect identified. The FBI saying casings recovered, a bullet with a message, and what they know so far. Also tonight, the dangerous scene in Los Angeles. The police chase a semi-truck suspected for a time. Authorities trying to figure out if there is a hostage. Officers using a SWAT vehicle to ram the truck. Millions watching Jimmy Kimmel's return to late-night TV. Kimmel emotional at times, addressing his own words and the issue of free speech amid this fierce debate across the country. Thanking viewers, thanking many conservatives, and then the moment he turned the attention to Charlie Kirk's widow, what he said about Erica Kirk. Tonight, the storms, the watch is up right now. Severe storms from Texas right up through Virginia. Damaging winds. Also tonight, all eyes now on the Atlantic. Hurricane Gabrielle already, and now Tropical Storm Humberto, likely to become a hurricane next. The current track headed east, and the third tropical threat right behind it. So Lee Goldberg is here to time it out, the potential paths, the early models tonight. Also, the devastating images coming in at deadly super typhoon walls of water, rushing through a luxury hotel, knocking guests off their feet. Just days after President Trump publicly urged Attorney General Pam Bondi to go after his political enemies, tonight sources tell ABC News the Justice Department plans to likely seek an indictment against former FBI Director James Comey. The frightening scene on the ball field, the Cleveland Guardians batter hit in the face by a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. We do have news on his condition tonight. The images just in, police say more than 20 masked suspects smashing their way into this jewelry store. An alleged trespasser arrested near Travis Kelce's home. Authorities say he and Taylor Swift were believed to be there. Tonight, the new explanation behind that moment. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump and the escalator that stopped. What the UN now says was the cause. Tonight, President Trump now calling for an investigation. And America Strong tonight, the man determined to become a firefighter, but afraid of heights.
I got all slipping.
What his fellow firefighters were determined to do for him. And you'll see what happened just days later. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David York. Good evening. We begin tonight here with a deadly sniper attack. A gunman on a roof targeting an ICE facility in
Happy Wednesday, everyone. So last night, Jimmy Kimmel returned to his show. He gave a self-pitying, tearful non-apology. But I gotta say, it's nice to see someone crying at Kimmel's show besides the audience. Kimmel failed to correct his lie that Charlie Kirk's assassin was a MAGA supporter, but he cited Jesus as inspiration for forgiveness. True, Jesus forgave his executioners, but Jesus also cast demons into a herd of pigs, which, as you know, for Jimmy, is still possible. So should we forgive him for the first time he lied or the second? Jesus performed a lot of miracles, but I don't think he'll be bringing Kimmel's show back from the dead. Kimmel portrayed himself as a victim, so maybe next time he does blackface, instead of Karl Malone, he should just go as Jussie Smollett. Alright. In other news, failed Trump assassin Ryan Ruth tried to stab himself with a pen after being sentenced in court. That's 2 times he tried to kill someone and failed. Wow, it's like he didn't listen to a word I said one woman. Kamala Harris told Rachel Maddow that her race against Trump ended up being the closest presidential election in the 21st century. When asked about proof, she said, "I prefer Smirnoff 100. Kamala also told The View she thought the differences between her and former President Joe Biden were obvious. True, he doesn't have to blow something to start his car. Or get a job. That's terrible that you would laugh at that. Alright, so the left loves to hit us with their new buzzword, censorship. But like with every issue, it's always projection. It's like when they call you Hitler, but they're the ones with the little mustaches. So Google now admits that Biden officials pressed YouTube to censor COVID content during the pandemic, meaning so-called misinformation was scrubbed faster than Doug Emhoff's junk after the nanny left. And now Google's reinstating these accounts. At least those tech nerds finally came around. But if they really cared so much about medical science, they should have investigated why Joe Biden hasn't cast a shadow since 2005. But there's more than that. Remember when the Biden White House jailed someone for a meme? Douglas Mackey was jailed for a joke about false voting instructions, while liberals who made the same joke are freer than Larry Kudlow jogging at a nude beach. So that's the left's commitment to free speech. They only care if a millionaire leftist is suspended for a few days. But destroying your life to shut you up, that's cool, because you aren't Jimmy Kimmel. So it's no wonder that liberal policies are as popular as cold sores at a CPR training class. The Dems are underwater across the board. What are we seeing, Harry? What are we seeing? Donald Trump...
On this Wednesday night, a privacy breach against the Prime Minister. The former RBC worker accused of accessing the bank account of Mark Carney and others.
Once you have access, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Deadly and destructive. The super typhoon roaring through Eastern Asia. The first ever treatment for a debilitating neurological disorder.
I saw the data and cried.
The breakthrough in Huntington's disease. Plus, lunar exploration anticipation. The date for NASA's moon mission moves up. Good evening and thanks for joining us. An Ottawa man is facing criminal charges accused of accessing the banking profiles of customers while he was an employee of the Royal Bank of Canada. One of those customers is Prime Minister Mark Carney. The RCMP says there's no threat to his safety or national security, but that the information was being gathered for criminal purposes. Taria Isri is following the developments in our top story tonight.
Donna, it seems no Canadian is immune to financial crime, not even the Prime Minister.
Your bank records. What did the RBC say about your bank records?
Mark Carney may be staying quiet, but the RCMP is talking about a stunning breach involving a high-profile client at this Royal Bank of Canada branch, a few steps from Parliament Hill. RCMP accused a former RBC employee of improperly accessing the Prime Minister's banking information for, quote, criminal purposes. 23-year-old Ibrahim El Hakim is charged with fraud over $5,000, unauthorized use of a computer, identity theft, and trafficking in identity information.
It just
This is DW News, live from Berlin. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urges the world not to stay silent about the war against his country. He tells the United Nations the world is living through the most destructive arms race in history. He also warns leaders that Russia aims to expand its war beyond Ukraine. Also coming up on the program, Typhoon Ragasa drenches southern China as Taiwan cleans up from the region's strongest tropical cyclone this year. People on the island are asking why the death toll was so high.
The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Speaking at the opening of the UN General Assembly, President Trump blasted the United Nations and questioned its purpose. He also called climate change a con job and warned European nations of the, quote, double-tailed monster of migration and green energy.
Not only is the UN not solving the problems it should, too often, it's actually creating new problems for us to solve. The best example is the number one political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders.
Outside the United Nations, protesters gathered urging an end to Israel's war on Gaza. This comes as 10 more countries recognize Palestinian statehood, bringing the total to more than 150 countries.
I would say that recognizing the Palestinian state right now without actually taking real action to stop the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people is just symbolic. It's hypocritical. It means nothing.
Israel is intensifying its bombardment of Gaza City, pushing its military forces to the heart of the city after ordering more than 1 million residents to flee. Israeli attacks have killed more than 50 people in Gaza today alone.
Is Asia Now.
Good afternoon. It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Ilakia Silveraji. Your headlines this hour. Typhoon Ragasa displaces more than 2 million people in China's Guangdong province. Forecasters warn the storm remains disruptive as it pushes inland towards Guangxi. China makes a landmark climate pledge. President Xi Jinping discloses plans to cut emissions by 7 to 10% by 2035. UN hails progress in battling global warming, but pushes countries to set more ambitious targets. A blockbuster debut in Hong Kong for Chery Auto. Investors are lapping up its shares as China's biggest car exporter plans to expand in the EV space.
Fatal shooting at a Dallas ICE office. Why the FBI is investigating this as an act of targeting. Smashing into a luxury hotel. And it's Fat Bear Week in Alaska, and voters are weighing in. From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News. Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois. I'm John Dickerson. We're beginning tonight with yet another fatal shooting in America. One the FBI is investigating as an act of targeted violence. It happened outside the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, field office in Dallas. Officials say a 29-year-old sniper fired from a nearby rooftop at a van holding migrants. One was killed, 2 others are in critical condition. Investigators say the shooter then killed himself. Officials say the words anti-ICE were written on unspent shell casings. President Trump was quick to blame Democrats for criticizing the immigration crackdown and for, quote, comparing ICE officers to Nazis. Last month, there was a bomb threat at the same ICE. Good morning. Is Andy Burnham making a turn to Westminster?
Yeah, Westminster gives his clearest hint yet as he claims MPs have urged him to take on the Prime Minister for Labour Party leadership.
Well, Mr. Burnham says he can turn the country around as he slams Sir Keir for creating a climate of fear amongst MPs.
Meanwhile, anti-ICE messages are found on bullets used in shooting at an immigration centre in Dallas, an attack condemned by the FBI Director and Senator Ted Cruz.
Needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. New research suggests that a £2,000 saving buffer could be a financial game changer, cutting the risk of households falling into debt.
And from food banks to counselling, schools are being forced to step in where services are failing. Teachers claim they're at a breaking point. So is it too much homework for staff to raise children as well? We're debating that later on this morning.
Well, Manchester United and England striker Wayne Rooney opens up about his struggles with alcohol, saying he wouldn't have survived without the support of his wife, Colleen.
And more than 550 Essex pupils turned trash into triumph at the county's first ever anti-littering festival, sparking a youth-led push to clean up communities across the country.
Supermassive black holes may be less monstrous than we thought. It's a discovery that could actually rewrite the story of the universe's earliest days. We'll bring you more later this hour.
And the National Cat Awards return. We'll celebrate the perfect, did I do that right? Felines who have transformed the lives of people across the country. We'll meet one of them just after 8 o'clock.
Well, it was a bit of a chilly start again this morning, but through today it's looking sunny. Stick around to find out how long the sunshine's going to last.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Dawn Newsom, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Prime Minister tells the UN General Assembly it's time to reform the organisation and push back against isolationism in his maiden speech.
We all have a part to play, and Australia, just as we always have, will always play our part.
A record number of family violence incidents reported in Victoria over the year to June. And doctors in the UK claim to have successfully treated the devastating Huntington's disease using gene therapy. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Joe O'Brien. In breaking news, the Tokyo High Court has dismissed an appeal for convicted Australian drug smuggler Donna Nelson. The Perth grandmother claims she's the innocent victim of a love scam after she was caught with 2 kilos of methamphetamine hidden inside her suitcase at Tokyo's Narita Airport in 2023. Her initial trial ruled she must have had doubts about bringing the bag from Laos to Japan for her online boyfriend. The High Court also found she had time and opportunity to consider the situation. We'll have more on this story with our correspondent in Japan, James Open, shortly. The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has given his first address to the United Nations General Assembly in New York. He spruiked Australia's new climate targets and pushed for better economic cooperation across the globe, highlighting the importance of partnerships in the Indo-Pacific region. He ended his speech by imploring fellow leaders to stand true to the UN's founding principles of peace, human rights and freedom, with particular regard to the Middle East.
Today I look to words that Australia helped write 80 years ago. Australia is calling for a ceasefire, for the immediate release of the hostages, for aid to flow to those in desperate need, and for the terrorists of Hamas to have no role in Gaza's future. And this week, Australia recognised the state of Palestine because, to quote from the Charter, that forms the very foundations of this institution and reflects the very best of its idealism. We are determined, quote, to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom, and for these ends, to practice tolerance and live together in peace with one another as good neighbours. That was right 80 years ago and it's right today. Every nation that takes a seat in this room has put its name to those principles. Peacekeepers and
Good morning, I'm Oliver Farrion. This is Daybreak, and here are this morning's headlines. Volodymyr Zelensky tells the United Nations that Ukraine needs more weapons to combat Russia and that recent alleged violations of NATO member airspace shows that Vladimir Putin is testing new boundaries. Xi Jinping unveils China's greenhouse gas emission reduction target for 2035 as Beijing seeks to bet on renewed energies and position itself against Donald Trump's pro-oil administration. Former President Nicolas Sarkozy awaits his verdict in a trial where he stands accused of accepting illegal campaign funds from former Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. The 70-year-old could face up to 7 years in prison if found guilty. And coming up in the press review, we'll look at why the pirate flag from Japanese manga One Piece has become a symbol of resistance for Gen Z protests around the world.
Hello, good morning. It's
6 o'clock on today's show, we have a special report on the young men risking torture and death to save lives in Sudan.
Plus, could the King of the North march on Westminster? Andy Burnham says he's being urged to stand for the Labour leadership.
It's Thursday, the 25th of September. On the front line in Sudan, Sky News meets the smugglers risking their lives to save the city from starvation.
There's about a 90% chance you won't make it. But a 10% chance means you can get supplies here. Save the sick, the injured, the starving.
Also ahead, a second airport in Denmark is forced to stop flights because of unauthorised drones. Keir Starmer under pressure. Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham says that MPs are privately urging him to challenge the leader. Richie Eze scores his first Arsenal goal as they ease through the Carabao Cup 4th round. Hello, good morning. Hundreds of people besieged Sudan City. Death to food and across the front lines and keep them alive. Well, since the war began 2 years ago,
Tonight, new details in that deadly sniper attack at an ICE facility in Dallas. The gunman opening fire from a nearby rooftop. One detainee killed, 2 others in critical condition. The gunman leaving behind shell casings with anti-ICE messages. Bullet hole seen in an office window and this framed American flag. With the 29-year-old suspect's brother revealed to us as the acting director of ICE tells me his agents are under assault. Also breaking tonight, the Justice Department weighing whether to indict former FBI Director James Comey over allegations of lying to Congress. Plus, we're tracking the most powerful typhoon on Earth so far this year, called the King of Storms. The devastating just coming in, floodwaters shattering these hotel doors, families being rescued. And closer to home, tropical storm Umberto and another system close by in the Atlantic could impact the East Coast next week. Will they interact or even combine? Our Bill Karen standing by. The scene of an unspeakable tragedy this summer, can't miss it. Now announcing plans to reopen. The outraged reaction from victims' families. The massive sinkhole opening up, swallowing part of a neighborhood. And you'll meet the self-taught 10-year-old chess prodigy, a global sensation, and what happened when R. Raf Sanchez tried to take her on. Nightly News starts right now. This is ABC Nightly News with Tom Yamas. Good evening, I'm Jeff Bennett. Amna Nawaz is on assignment. On the News Hour tonight, Syria's new president addresses the UN General Assembly, the first Syrian leader to do so in more than half a century. We speak with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer as the federal government moves closer to a shutdown.
He is derelict in his duty as president. He should be sitting down with us. He said he would.
And our exclusive interview with a law professor who's suing West Point for new rules that he says violate free speech.
That's the essence of the First Amendment, speaking according to our conscience. It's difficult to imagine any greater value in our Constitution.
Africa News. The news. Former Malawi leader Peter Mutharika was declared the winner of the presidential election on Thursday. He won the election by a significant margin, securing 57% of votes, while the current president Lazarus Chakwera received 33% and considered defeat earlier that day. This announcement marks a major political comeback for the 85-year-old Mutharika, who previously served as president from 2014 to 2020 before losing to Chakwera by a wide margin. Mutharika now inherits an economy in deep crisis, facing a severe shortage of fuel and foreign currency in this impoverished southern African nation. Before conceding, Chakwera's party raised concerns about serious anomalies during the vote counting process. However, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Justice Annabelle Mtalimanja, expressed gratitude to everyone for ensuring that the elections occurred smoothly and without any significant logistical issues. The swearing-in ceremony is expected to take place 7 days after the announcement of the results, according to the Electoral Commission. Malawians also voted for the makeup of parliament and more than 500 local government representatives.
People in Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali have welcomed the Alliance of Sahel states' withdrawal from the International Criminal Court. The 3 members of the West African Alliance on Monday announced their immediate departure from the body, calling it an instrument of neo-colonialist repression. It was a good decision if we want to continue in the logic of our total independence. It was high time we left this court, which was practically designed or pre-designed
only for African leaders and not for all the leaders of the world. I welcome the news with great satisfaction and joy, because we are sovereign, and every sovereign state must be able to take responsibility in all areas, including social and economic justice. Created in 2023, the AES Confederation is committed to permanently breaking ties with neocolonialism. At the UN General Assembly, DRC's President Philippe Tshisekedi sounded the alarm, calling the conflict in eastern Congo a silent genocide. He urged world leaders to recognize the crisis and made his message clear. The violence must stop now. The withdrawal of Rwandan troops, the end of their support to M23, and the restoration of the authority of the Congolese state over all occupied areas constitute non-negotiable conditions for a lasting peace. Tshisekedi appealed to the international community to help in bringing lasting peace. I address this assembly with a solemn plea: recognize the Congolese genocide, support our struggle for truth and justice, and help us finally build a lasting peace in the heart of Africa. For Tshisekedi, words are no longer enough. We call on the United Nations to establish a regime of targeted sanctions against the perpetrators of economic crimes, but also of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes of genocide committed in the east of my country, and to support all actions aimed at drying out the illicit supply chains of minerals which for decades have financed war and human tragedy.
Qui finance depuis des décennies la guerre et la tragédie humaine.
A UN investigation has pointed to possible war crimes by all sides in Congo's conflict. Fighting has surged since 2021, driven by the rebel M23 group, backed, the UN says, by Rwanda and its military.
11 West African nationals deported by the United States to Ghana have been returned to their home countries, despite fears they could face torture, persecution, or inhumane treatment. The group had filed a lawsuit to stay their deportation, but when it came to court on Tuesday, their lawyers said they had been removed over the weekend and that the suit was therefore irrelevant. 6 of the deportees are now in Togo, while the whereabouts of the other 5 is unknown, their lawyer said. The group included 4 Nigerians, 3 Togolese, 2 Malians, 1 Liberian, and 1 Gambian. The Ghanaian government has said the decision to take in West African deportees was not an endorsement of US President Donald Trump's immigration policy, and said that Ghana was not getting anything in return.
Super Typhoon Ragalsa, one of the strongest storms in recent years, continues its deadly path across Asia. On Wednesday, it battered Hong Kong's coastline and Macau with huge waves, submerging roads and flooding hotels, shops and buildings. Earlier, it swept through the Philippines and Taiwan, where at least 50 people died after a lake burst, causing severe flooding in the east of the country. Torrential rain and howling wind brought the region to a standstill, with Hong Kong cancelling hundreds of flights. Schools were shut and China evacuated nearly 2 million people from Guangdong province as Ragalsa barreled towards the mainland. The tropical cyclone, which formed last week, rapidly intensified to become a Category 5 super typhoon on Monday. Incidents
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.